I've been thinking a lot about a specific kind of ghost. It's a ghost that doesn't haunt houses. It haunts dinner parties, coffee dates, and your 2 a.m. ceiling stares. It's the phenomenon of feeling behind in life. You know the feeling. You see an old high school friend on Instagram who just bought a house. Clink. You see a peer getting a promotion. Clink. You hear about someone your age starting a family or traveling the world or just looking happier than you. Most of us can't quite put our finger on it. We combat it silently. We feel like we aren't measuring up, like we're running a race where the finish line keeps moving and everyone else has better shoes. But here's the terrifying part. For decades, a billion-dollar self-help industry has told you that the solution is to find yourself, to get more therapy, to dig deeper into your trauma, to become more self-aware. What if I told you they were wrong? What if I told you that your obsession with solving yourself is exactly why you feel so behind? Today, we're going to talk about why self-awareness is like medicine and why you might be overdosing on it. Let's look at the solution we're all told to seek: therapy. Over the last 100 years, clinical psychology has produced as many forms of therapy as Adam Sandler has cheesy rom-coms. You've got CBT, DBT, ACT, Jungian, Freudish. The list is an alphabet soup of fixes. Researchers wanted to know which one is the gold standard, which one actually fixes the feeling of being behind. The answer? All of them, and none of them. On average, every modality produces similar results. In fact, studies show that people often benefit from speaking to a thoughtful amateur just as much as a professional with 10 degrees. The revelation.
The value of therapy isn't the specialized technique, it's the context. It's getting a person in a room to talk about their problems to another human who actually listens. That's the 1% that drives 99% of the results. But this creates a dangerous loop, because if the context is what matters, we start to believe that talking about our problems is the only way to be healthy. We become professional problem seekers. We start to view our lives not as a series of experiences to be lived, but as a series of bugs to be debugged. To understand why this makes us feel behind, we have to look at how consciousness works. The philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer argued that consciousness has two parts: the subject, the observer, and the object, the thing being observed. Usually, you are the subject. You look at a tree. The tree is the object. Simple. But self-awareness happens when you turn that lens inward. You make your feelings the object. You say, "I am feeling angry," or "I am feeling like a failure." Chipping away at the ego. When you see your anger as an object, it no longer is you. You can analyze it. You can ask, is this useful? This is a prerequisite for emotional growth. But what happens when you spend all your time looking at your feelings, when the subject, you, never looks at the world, but only at the broken objects inside your head? You lose the ability to participate in reality. You become so aware of your insecurities that you stop being aware of the opportunities standing right in front of you. You feel behind because you are standing still, inspecting your shoes while everyone else is just walking. You might say, "But I can't help it. I see others succeeding and I feel like a failure." Look, comparison is built into our DNA. Thousands of years ago, if you were a farmer and the guy next door had greener crops, you needed to know why. It was a survival mechanism. But today, we aren't looking at the farmer next door. We're looking at the Instagram version of the entire world. The Great Deception. If you look at my life, my posts, my highlight reel, you might think I'm living an extraordinary life, and I've had a good year. But my Instagram doesn't tell the story of the self-doubt. It doesn't show the 3 a.m. anxiety or the moments of profound regret.
We compare our behind-the-scenes footage to everyone else's greatest hits. The identity gap. I realized recently that my need to get ahead wasn't actually about ambition. It was based on a lack of self-love. I wasn't okay with who I was right now. I was using a measuring stick that wasn't even mine. It was a stick manufactured by the billion-dollar industry of more. When you use an arbitrary measuring stick, you will always be short. Even if you win the race, you'll look at the guy who won the race faster and feel behind again. This is where self-awareness becomes medicine that makes you sick. Imagine you've been in therapy for years. You've solved the big stuff. One day you show up and you have nothing to talk about, but you feel like you should have a breakthrough. The invention of trauma. To justify being there, your mind starts scanning. It inflates a tiny discomfort into a major issue. Why don't I connect with my coworkers? Is it because my mother didn't let me play with the kids across the street when I was 5? Suddenly, a vague, neutral memory becomes a scary memory. Your brain literally invents a trauma to satisfy your need for self-analysis. This is called false memory syndrome. The warning. Healthy self-awareness normalizes what is pathological. It makes the crazy parts of you feel manageable. Unhealthy self-awareness pathologizes what is normal. Feeling lonely sometimes is normal. Feeling anxious about a new job is normal. Feeling behind occasionally is just part of the human experience. But we are teaching a generation that these are disorders that need a 10-step plan to fix. Sometimes the most self-aware thing you can do is realize there's nothing to solve. I recently worked with a director of photography. He's much older than me, incredibly talented, someone I viewed as having made it. We had a heart-to-heart. I told him I felt behind. I told him I didn't know if I was doing enough. And he looked at me and said, "I'm basically where you're at. I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing next. I'm still doubting myself every day." That was a weight lifted. To realize that the feeling of being behind doesn't go away with success. It doesn't go away with money, because life is non-linear. You can't calculate where you'll be in 10 years because the variables change every day. Thinking you can predict life is what causes the disappointment. The behind you feel is a ghost. It's an invented measurement. You are exactly where you are, and you are doing the best you can with the subject you have.
So what's the prescription? If self-awareness is medicine, how do we know when we've had enough? Stop seeing discomfort as a problem. Anxiety is feedback. Fear is a signal. You don't always have to unpack it. Sometimes you just have to say, "Oh, I'm feeling scared today. Cool, I'm gonna go get lunch anyway." Don't fix what isn't broken. If your life is going well, let it go well. Stop digging for buried issues. Get physical. The best way to quell an overactive mind is to keep the body busy. Go for a run, lift something heavy, move the subject back into the world of objects. Accept the measuring stick. The only measuring stick that matters is your own. And your stick shouldn't be about productivity, it should be about acceptance. Accepting who you are, right now, with the self-doubt, the fear, and the messy Instagram, is the most liberating thing you will ever do. It's the only way to realize that you aren't behind. You aren't in a race. You're just in a life. If this reminded you to take a breath today, leave a comment with the word "here." Let's remind each other that we're all in the same stage of figuring it out. And if you're still struggling to let go, well, I know a guy who wrote a book about it. Thanks for watching. Now go do something that isn't self-improvement.